Exploring the facts and myths, did the Ottoman Sultans inspire fear and sadism? This video was prepared based on reliable Turkish and foreign sources. We have taken care to present the information accurately. Please subscribe to the channel to receive all new content. With sincere thanks and appreciation. Did the sultans of the Ottoman dynasty take pleasure in torture and killing to the point of sadism? And did their dysfunctional upbringing in the halls of the palaces in Istanbul play a role in the turmoil that surrounded their legacies? These questions will be answered by examining the histories of two Ottoman sultans, each described as completely insane and utterly sadistic, namely Sultan Murad IV and Sultan Ibrahim the Mad. Before delving into the lives of Ibrahim and Murad, who, by the way, were brothers, we should take a look at a phenomenon that emerged in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul during the 17th century, known as the princes' cages. These cages were isolation wings in the Ottoman harem where young princes of the Ottoman dynasty were confined during their youth. This was done to prevent them from interacting with the outside world and thus avoid the complications of rebellion against their reigning sultan brother. Safiye, the sultana who was one of the concubines that ruled the Ottoman state during the period known as the Sultanate of Women, is the figure who invented the idea of cages as an alternative to the new sultan executing all his male siblings. This idea was based on an old custom that Safiye herself had practiced, where she set a record by killing 18 Ottoman princes in one night during the inauguration of her son, Sultan Mehmed III. Living for a long period surrounded by silent walls, where speaking or interacting with others is forbidden, inevitably has a severe impact on mental health. This situation deprives one of the basics needed for building a healthy personality, such as interaction with the surrounding world. Sultan Murad IV and his brother Sultan Ibrahim grew up in these cages and were significantly affected by their conditions, leading to the development of various levels of madness in their minds. These effects were evident during the period when they emerged into the outside world and took over the throne of the Ottoman Empire. Murad IV is the son of Sultan Ahmed I and Kosum Sultan. Murad quickly emerged from the prince's cages when he was 11 years old, taking the oath for the Sultanate as a replacement for his uncle Sultan Mustafa I, who was deposed due to signs of madness. In the early period of Murad's reign, Kosum Sultan effectively managed the affairs of the Ottoman Empire, keeping Murad out of sight and promoting the idea that this was necessary due to his young age. Murad IV remained under the guardianship of Kosum Sultan for a full 9 years between 1623 and 1632. In the latter part of this period, Murad met with the Divan and the scholars, where he announced the issuance of a decree ending Kosum Sultan's guardianship over him and affirmed his intention to end the chaos that had spread within the state structure. He threatened that he would not hesitate to resort to repression against anyone who opposed him, regardless of their identity. Murad IV later proved that his threats were not mere words. He would disguise himself with his private soldiers, wearing commoners' clothing, and go down to the streets of Istanbul to execute drinkers of alcohol and coffee. Coffee was still banned under the pretext of its harmful effects on the mind. Murad did not limit the punishment of coffee drinkers to reprimanding and beating. He carried out executions himself, killing many residents of Istanbul by beheading them with his own sword. He also ordered his soldiers to drown others in the waters of the Bosphorus. Murad committed these acts for his own amusement, not to enforce Sharia law as he claimed. Today, we know that the Sultan drank alcohol heavily in his private gatherings, which led to his death at the age of 27 due to liver cirrhosis from excessive alcohol consumption. Murad's brutal behaviors were evident not only in his actions towards drinkers and coffee makers but also in other instances involving executions, even in situations far removed from drinking and coffee preparation. For example, he once forced his personal physician to ingest a lethal dose of opium due to an incorrect diagnosis of his health condition. On another occasion, he beheaded a musician in public for performing a Persian musical piece, as Murad believed the musician was praising his enemies in Iran. Furthermore, one night, he ordered his personal messenger to be impaled because the messenger had incorrectly informed the Sultan of the birth of a son, when in fact the newborn was a girl. This madness and the development of murder methods extended to the harem, who were subjects of suspicion for Murad due to his harsh experience with his mother, Kosum. On one occasion, the Sultan decided to drown a group of concubines on charges of causing disturbance. On another occasion, he ordered a second group of concubines to strip completely and jump into a water pool while he shot at them with his rifle. It seems he accused them of conspiring against him with his mother, the Sultana, who at that time was living far from the only thing she truly loved, power. Ibrahim, born to Sultan Ahmed I and Kosum Sultan in 1615, spent his childhood confined in the prince's cages, which led to him being mentally affected by the deadly solitude. He was constantly threatened with death by his brother, Murad IV, who sought to eliminate Ibrahim and secure the throne for his own male descendants. Although Murad abandoned his plan and died in 1640, meaning that Ibrahim was able to ascend to the Ottoman throne, the deep psychological crisis he experienced continued to affect him, causing clear signs of madness. It is reported that when Kosum Sultan went to Ibrahim's chamber to inform him of Murad's death and pledge allegiance to him as the new sultan, he was unable to believe the news until he saw his brother's body for himself. When he later appeared to take the oath from the soldiers and state officials, his state of confusion and mental disarray was clearly evident. He was unable to deliver the customary throne speech to them. It was apparent from his continued agitation and the trembling that controlled his body that the tranquility he had grown accustomed to in his small cage had impaired his ability to interact with people. It was also clear that the fear instilled by his deceased brother's threats had established a deep-seated fear within him that could not be eradicated or even alleviated. In any case, none of this was viewed with disdain by Sultanate Kosum or her supporters, as their main concern was to restore their prominent positions of power. Therefore, they welcomed Ibrahim's madness and even encouraged it. The state officials of that era were influenced by advising Sultan Ibrahim to indulge in concubines and mistresses. Ibrahim agreed without hesitation, to the point where leisure, games, and madness occupied him completely in endless private sessions, especially due to Sheikh Arbra, who led the Sultan to immerse himself in a world of pleasure and amusement. Then came Kasaki, who was even more dangerous than the first. The influence of Kasaki on Ibrahim grew significantly until her orders were obeyed without question. When he married her, he granted her a dowry from the Egyptian treasury that lasted an entire year and furnished his entire palace and ship with sable fur, based on her love for its appearance and colors. Nevertheless, Ibrahim was not spared from behaving in a brutal and sadistic manner. Due to the madness and paranoia that overwhelmed him, the Sultan believed that some of the concubines in his harem were spies working for his mother, Kosum. Consequently, whenever he suspected one of the concubines, he would immediately order her to be thrown into the waters of the Bosphorus to be swallowed by the waves. Ibrahim killed approximately 280 concubines in this brutal manner, without mercy, laughing maniacally as it happened. This madness continued until 1648, when the Janissary revolt broke out against Sultan Ibrahim, accusing him of madness and squandering state funds. They relied on the Sheikh al-Islam, Abdul Rahman Afanda, to issue a fatwa permitting the deposition of Ibrahim, which was done in August 1648. The Sultan was imprisoned again in one of the rooms, while his 7-year-old son, Mehmed IV, was enthroned, and Sultanate Kosum was once again granted the regency. The rebels then issued a new fatwa permitting the execution of Sultan Ibrahim, and he was executed by strangulation just 11 days after his deposition, at the age of 33.